And there it is live. Hey, Internet friends, Magic Brad here, Synergy Cafe and the Synergy Collaborative. And today we've got a webinar on meditation. And the guest today is Damon Dickinson. Now, I met Damon actually before I moved to Asheville when I was in Minneapolis. I met him online, so that just fascinates me that you can connect with people online. And I met him just internet-based. I think it was like LinkedIn or something like that. But since I moved to Asheville, I met Damon, and he was at that time he was doing some marketing consulting on Google and all that stuff. So he's kind of technical, yet he's also got the spiritual meditative side. So I'm going to bring on Mr. Damon Dickinson. Are you here?
Hey, good afternoon, Magic Brad. Good to see you. Thanks for hosting this this gathering together here.
Oh, looks like Jeremy made a comment. Jeremy Courage. I like that last name, Jeremy Courage.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, Jeremy, Bridget, Brian. This is the first time we've used all these tools together, and we've got this chat window open. It's got like 4 different screens, so I'm trying to flip around to see who's saying what here, because I guess I have it in attendee mode. But there I go. I see it. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. We're going to have fun today, and for the most part, we're just going to have an open forum for any questions you may have about meditation. I've got a list, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm now a young, spry 45 years old, and I live here in Asheville, North Carolina. This is where I call home. I love it here. I've been here since 1998. It's a beautiful western mountain area. Grew up down in South Florida. Didn't have the easiest childhood. Didn't have the worst, but didn't have the best. Got into drugs and alcohol were kind of my first, spiritual foray. I didn't really have religion or spirituality growing up. It was kind of like sex, drugs, and rock and roll were the golden calves of the family. And yet I always knew, even before I got into spirituality and my exploration, that there was some source of intelligence that ran this reality. It was too perfect and too balanced, and the beauty in every part of it, and bigger than I was, and I could understand. I just didn't have a way to connect to it. And, drugs and alcohol took me down a road that had me surrender it a way that I don't think anything else would, so I was grateful for those things. It really brought me to a deep ego surrender at a very early age. At the age of 17, I nearly almost killed myself. And so my first path into spirituality was a very practical one. It was the 12 steps of recovery, first through NA and then AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And it gave me this pathway to walk through and to begin to make a connection to a higher power. And part of that was prayer and meditation in the 11 of the 12 steps. As I did that, I also just started, because I didn't really have a spiritual path at that point, really started exploring different paths, trying to find my way and understanding of what spirit and God and higher power was. And so my beginning exploration started with Native American traditions. I studied with one great teacher I studied with of many was grandmother Twyla Nitt. She was a grandmother of the Wolf Clan of the Seneca Nation, which is up Seneca, New York, just south of Buffalo. And I learned a lot about how animals and their view and connection with nature and understanding of nature is a part of their understanding of their personal understanding of God and how God is reflected, or Great Spirit, in the world, in our interaction with the world. And then Wankantanka is one word they use to represent the great mystery, that part that as a human being I'll never have the capacity to understand fully. It's always going to be in a place of unfolding and understanding, and it was amazing. And also had my first foray into intense meditation, which was a vision quest. You go out and you sit in the wilderness by yourself. There are people holding space for you, but not next to you, and basically sit for 3 days and 2 nights with a little bit of water, but no food, no water, basically in prayer. And it was intense, and it was powerful. And I continued my path both on the Native American tradition. I got into, and just read. I'm a voracious reader. I still am. I love to read and take in information. Read all kinds of New Age things from, Seth Speaks, and channeled material like Ramtha, some people may have heard of, or Abraham Hicks was some of the things I listened to. Keys to Higher Consciousness, Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God, on and on and on. I'd read what was out there. Just continuing to formulate my own understanding and practicing different forms of meditation, simple breath, counting breath, to mantras, which are repeated sayings, to walking meditation in Buddhist tradition. And through my life, as I continue to grow up over the next 25, now 27 years or so since then, I've continued to explore. And yet I got into a couple of like grooves, and one of them for about 7 years was a pretty straightforward, very simple, somewhat strict and formal form of Zen Buddhist meditation, which is basically sitting, at the wall and counting your breaths up to 3 and then starting over again. And doing that in retreats for up to 7 days, like 12 to 16 hours a day, sitting on a cushion, looking at the wall, counting your breaths. Very, very powerful practice. And then, without getting into the long story, the next path that I found or was actually introduced to was called open heart prayer meditation, and in some ways was almost the antithesis of this Zen practice. Not that it was more complex, it was actually in some ways simpler and easier. But instead of being what a lot of people associate with mindfulness, which is sort of this detached awareness, witnessing of our reality, our thoughts, feelings, all of those sort of things, it was actually a focus on our heart, and that our connection to our heart is our direct connection to a tangible intelligence, which we call true source, is a non-denominational term, of a higher power, God, source of all love and light, and creating this very personal relationship with God, which really appealed to me, as opposed to more of the transpersonal experience of what I was experiencing in Zen Buddhism. Anyway, for the last 8 years, that has continued to be my path, and it's continued to grow and understand. And it's something that I want to share more with the world. Along those lines, I don't have a particular affiliation when we're talking about meditation and meditation for beginners. I think everyone should take the time to explore and experiment and try different forms of meditation. So this open forum is for you, whatever your practice is or a practice you may be considering, to ask questions, and we can talk about those. We don't have really the technology to let everyone in on video yet and control all that, so you're going to have to put your questions over in the chat bar. And you can also ask more personal questions, because I kind of gave you a short version of my story if there's something you wanted to ask. And I also, just to put out there, Brad and I have been doing these daily videos, which, hey Marin, welcome. We can see your chat there. Marin, I believe, Marin. Of the 30 most frequently asked questions that I could find online through forums and different places that people have asked, which I'm writing a book on, and we've been doing videos on. So if anybody just wants us to kind of go through a few of those, I don't know that we can cover them all in this short hour session that we have, but we can definitely get maybe the top 10 or so. And but first, we'd like to hear from you, and if you have a question, you can go ahead and put it over in the chat box, and we welcome you here. And with that, I'll be quiet for a minute and just invite folks to ask questions. Does anyone have a question? Hey, Brad, I wonder if we try the Q&A, if it makes any difference, or just use the chat window.
Here's a question right here. Can you talk more on what you meant by the transformational experience of Zen Buddhism? Can you see that, Damon? Damon? Damon froze up. That's technology sometimes. You gotta just deal with it, I guess. He may be coming back. I can see him there, but it looks like his image is frozen up. There, he came back on a different device, it looks like.
Sorry, I lost you guys there for a second. I got kicked off. My page crashed. It's the joys of
technology. It froze up again.
Using a hang.
So we do have a question here, Damon. Jeremy's got one in the chat. Can you see it?
I can't, not yet. Can you read it to me?
Yes, here's the question. Can you talk more on what you meant by the transformational experience of Zen Buddhism after you finish your thought?
Brad, sorry, you cut off. I could only hear the question, but you are booting back up. So if you can hear me, give me another moment, and I should be able to see it. Jeremy, sorry about that, everyone. We're back. Can you talk more on what you meant by the transpersonal experience of Zen Buddhism after you finish your thought? Okay, so my experience of Zen Buddhism, and one of the ultimate goals that's spoken of in the Zen Buddhist practice, is a place of nothingness, a place of what they consider or call the void, and even what's beyond the void. So it's this place of completely emptying out of mind. So and in essence, it's allowing the mind to completely empty, be in a place of emptiness, and then experience what's beyond mind. And so when I say transpersonal, personal representing daemon or ego, personality of daemon, you know, who I think I am, my name, my age, my race, my sex, my beliefs, my thoughts, all those things would represent the personal. And through allowing the mind to empty, to transcend my human self and identity and what may be beyond that, which quite often is beyond words. It's a very deep and peaceful place. And quite often, the heart does begin to open in that space, but it's not as directed. Or I say directed, it's not as clear. It's more spontaneous. And so that's what I mean by transpersonal. My experience of it has been different at different times. The most common qualities that I can put into words is first off a very deep, peaceful place. When the mind is completely still with no thought, it's a sublime place of peace, beyond words. Sublime gentleness is the closest I can get to it. And it's an expansiveness. It's like, so in this moment, I can feel infinity. Like there's no beginning and no ending to it. It's just this moment. There's no next moment or moment before. It all expands into one moment. And there's an expansiveness of my awareness. Like even when I'm here talking right now, my awareness is about the inside of my room here where I'm speaking. It kind of extends to the wall. I can see the computer. I can feel my body sitting on the chair. It expands way beyond, like my body would drop away and my sensory feelings of my body would drop away, and it would just be in this expanded place that you could try to measure. Like you could try to like travel out with your senses to feel where the edges were, but they just kind of kept going in all directions. And so you could just keep expanding, or you could just surrender into it, and it just had sort of its own space. It didn't really have a measurement, an up or down or top or bottom or left or right. It was just this moment, here now, and almost a one-pointedness and expandedness at the same time. It's really difficult to put in words. It's one of those things, even in Zen koans, the riddles that they would give were to try to trick the brain enough so that it could let go of words and concepts and ideas and just experience it directly. And ultimately, that's the only way to get your own experience of it. It's like me trying to describe, ice cream or a beautiful sensual kiss as opposed to like getting your own ice cream cone or having a really sweet kiss. They're two different things. So I don't know. Hopefully that helped you, Jeremy, in describing what transpersonal means. Did that help?
It must have.
All right.
So maybe there's another question I can pull in. Does anybody else have a question that they'd like?
Yeah, I see Bridget and Marin here. Do either one of you have questions?
If not, I can pull some of that stuff off of the document.
Yeah, Brad, you're welcome to ask questions too. We've been in this conversation for a while. You may still have some of your own personal questions or some from the list that appeal to you. So be happy to go through there. Good, awesome, Jeremy. Thanks for letting us know that helped. I don't want to confuse you anymore. I want to be able to create more clarity. So,
okay, here's a question. Question number 10. What is the best meditation?
That's a good one. And I see Jeremy is continuing to chat here as well.
Okay.
What about insight, mental, loving, kindness, vipassana, are they not all about being in that same vein? I'm just going to feel into your question for a minute. Okay. This actually comes, maybe can incorporate your question as well, Brad, about, what's the best meditation? And I'll answer it more directly to you, Jeremy, and then bring in what, at least in my experience, is quote-unquote the best meditation, and answer that. Let's everybody just do a quick exercise real quick, and it might help you to answer this question for yourself than from my own experience. So, Jeremy, again, just to repeat what your question was, what about insight, mental, loving kindness, vipassana? Are they not all about being in that same vein? There's a distinction for me between mental and insight and loving kindness and where those come from in our being, in our consciousness. They're not separate, but they are coming from a different place within our being, and they have different qualities to them. Are they in the same vein? I do believe that each person in meditation, we all basically want the same thing, and the simplest way I can put it is we all want to be happier, more peaceful, happier, and fulfilled in our lives, with happy being the top of the list. And so, yes, having our mental ability, our brain, and our mind to be focused on being loving and kind and realizing what brings us more happiness is an important thing. It's more the practice itself which will get us there the easiest, most effective way. And that might be different for different people based on where they're at in their spiritual path, just as it was for me. So I don't discount any other practice that I did before I was introduced to Open Heart. I just know for me now, and I believe for most beings right now, that a heart-centered meditation will actually bring us further to our goal of being happier and having more insight, realization into the real purpose of life. And so let's just feel for a second. So I invite everyone just to close their eyes for a moment and feel, just experience what it's like to meditate from your mind, from a mental place. So looking for or being in mindfulness in your mind, mentally aware, and what an insight might be from your mind, an understanding, like you're gaining insight of this is what it's like to meditate from my mind, from a place of mental awareness. And now even allow from your mind to think about, to contemplate, to be mindful of what it's like to be loving and kind. Good. Feel that energy. Feel the consciousness associated with it. Feel your whole experience of it. Now, what I want to do is share something a little different, which is from our heart. Okay? So now what I invite you to do, and part of the way will help to make this shift, is as your eyes are still closed, I invite you to take a couple of fingers from your left or right hand and touch your heart, your spiritual heart. Your heart chakra is one word for it in Sanskrit. And it's really in the center of your chest where your physical heart's off to the left. Center of your chest, usually a little higher than most people think. It's right at armpit level across the top of your chest. So way above your sternum, almost like, not to be profane, but like at your nipple level in the middle. And just touch right there in your chest. And I also invite you to just smile sweetly and freely. And now without thinking how or where, just begin to smile to your heart. Notice any changes from the previous form of way we were meditating in a mindful way, from a mental place. Just notice any changes. So even though the mind is active, notice where the primary place or focus and where the energy is and where your awareness is, and any shift or change that's different. Continue smiling to your heart, and now allow your heart to realize what it is to meditate. And now let your heart realize what it is to be loving and kind. Yeah, and I wonder if any of you can feel that. I believe most of you can, that shift, that feeling that just happened from your heart. Okay? So now take a moment and stop touching your heart. You can keep smiling if you like, or you don't have to smile. And go back to mindfulness. So mental insight, mental awareness, mindfulness. And think of, be aware of being loving and kind. And now come back to touching your heart. Smile to your heart. And let your heart realize what it is to be loving and kind. And now, while you stay in this state of staying connected to your heart, you don't have to touch your heart if you don't want to, but just staying in this state, if you're enjoying it, allowing your eyes to slowly open while you stay within your heart and your heart's realization. Now, I would love to hear or see from anyone in the chat room if you felt a difference. Just, give a yes or no if you felt a difference between the two. Jeremy, Bridget, Marin, anybody else? If not, if you still have a question, Jeremy, if you're still here, which I think you are, did that help at all to have like a direct experience? Thanks, Brian.
Damon, I was looking at Jeremy's question. He had a word in here. I don't think he meant mental.
Oh, the metta.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, Jeremy, I apologize. I'm not familiar with that word, metta. Hey, Bridget, sorry we lost you. I don't know how much of that exercise you may or may not have gotten to do. And Jeremy, I noticed you said yes, you felt a difference. Did that help answer your question to kind of have that little direct experience, as opposed to me trying to figure it out with words, to explain it with the words? I may have. So I was wondering if maybe the experience helped, but if you want to clarify, we can continue with it.
Perhaps if you would define what that word metta is, because I don't know it myself.
Right. Yeah, I'm familiar with loving kindness. I wasn't familiar with the actual word metta, though.
Perhaps metta is loving kindness.
That could be.
Then they would, yes, indeed, be in the same vein.
And yes, I do believe, Jeremy, that our goal is still the same within Buddhism, and even quote unquote within Open Heart, and loving kindness is definitely a primary principle and goal that we want to experience in our life. Because of course, the more loving and kind we are, I experience directly, the happier I am. The one distinction I was wanting to offer that made a huge difference for me was taking it from the mental plane of understanding to a place of actual feeling directly through our hearts the difference. And yeah, thanks, Jeremy, for so methodologies is the meta.
I definitely felt the difference, Damon. You and I talked about this when you did this exercise with me, and because I'm a logical guy, I always go into my head, and that was part of my problem is I'm always thinking. And my old friend Patrick Weisman in Minneapolis, he says, "Don't think, stop thinking." And my head always goes into the thinking mode, and you showed me how to not even bypass the head because that would bring it into consciousness, but just go right direct to the heart. And that makes a big difference because of the whole thing we're talking about. I'm not sure if people are familiar with heart math and all those kind of things that we had talked about. But Jeremy just posted a big bunch of stuff here.
Yeah, I saw that wiki reference to it for a definition. Thanks for that, Jeremy. So meta, yeah. And again, it's one thing to think about it, intellectualize it. It's another to experience it. Dr. David Hawkins, and I mentioned him in one of our talks, Brad, is one of my favorite teachers. One of his best books was called, that I liked, he wrote many, was called Power versus Force. And in that book, he created this relative scale of consciousness from 0 to 1,000, with the bottom of the scale being like shame and guilt, moving up the emotional spectrum into like, you know, hatred, pride. And then there was intellectualism, which was like 400 to 500. And then I certainly will, Jeremy. We'll talk about heart math here in a moment because it fits into all this. And then at 500 is where we actually reach love and frequency and consciousness. And then beyond love, like in the 600s, is unconditional love, and then it goes into peace, and then there's even, you know, higher states of consciousness and frequency that we can experience. And I see that you may have read or heard some of that book, Jeremy. That's awesome. It's a fascinating book and read. And the point I want to make is he says, you know, at 400, until we've actually experienced love, it's an objective experience. Until it becomes subjective, can we actually delve into and experience directly the realm of spirit and spiritual understanding and growth. And so there's a lot of like foundational work within Buddhism that's very intellectual. Okay? A lot of students that have made it an intellectual exercise, and quite often it's the more advanced studies until you get into the Heart Sutras and the deeper parts of it. It's like there's this belief that you have to tame or empty the mind first before you can experience the heart. And I believe that may have been true in the past, but I believe we're in a new place in consciousness and awareness where we can go direct to our heart and experience directly and move and grow beyond from the place of our heart. So bringing heart math into this, Heart Math Institute is an organization up in British Columbia, and they actually study the physical heart and its resonant patterns, and how it affects consciousness, especially in our ability to focus, and all of the physical benefits that typically come from meditation, like lowering our blood pressure, relaxing the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, for greater clarity, for greater focus, for more peace, all of those things. And there's a free PDF if you go to their site, a document that you can download that goes into some of the measurable science between our heart and our brain. So if we look at these two organs, where brain represents mind, heart represents heart and spirit, it's what I call it, where the brain-mind actually represents soul. The heart, from a physical standpoint, and as a reflection of what's happening on a spiritual plane in consciousness, is electrically 10 times greater. I think it may even be 1,000 times greater in its electrical voltage than the brain. The brain, when they put electrodes on it and measure its electrical impulses, it's in millivolts, which is 1,000th of a volt. Is that correct, Brad? Milli is 1,000th, right? I'm pretty sure it's 1,000. The heart is actually measured in volts. So there's, you know, literally a, you know, 10 to the third power, I believe, or no, it's 1,000 times. It's not 10 to the third power. Math's not my strongest point.
That's not why they call it heart math, though.
Well, the math is measuring the heartbeat, the inbeat and the outbeat of the heart, and that pattern, because there is a particular pattern based on the phi ratio when the heart goes boom, boom, that they can measure, and they call it coherence. When it's in a coherent pattern, it represents on the screen a phi ratio, and people quite often very universally experience a sense of bliss and peace when they're in that place. And so the heart has an electrical impulse that's significantly stronger, 10 to 1,000 times stronger in electrical voltage than the brain. And it's magnetic. There's a magnetic part to us, and they can measure the magnetic field now around the brain. They can see it with MRIs, magnetic resonating imagery. And even the strongest brains with the most powerful magnetic force, they can measure it out about 12 inches from the skull. The heart has a magnetic field that can be measured up to 8 feet from the body. So its magnetic field is significantly 8 times larger than the brain. So just looking at even just the physical correlation that they're able to measure with scientific instruments, the heart, also the other piece is that our heart, they look at the actual nerve endings that travel from the heart to the brain, which is the information being sent back and forth from the brain and the heart, and there are actually twice as many nerve endings traveling from the heart to the brain than the brain to the heart. And when they actually look at the electrical impulses traveling, there's literally 10 times more information, actual electrical activity flowing from the heart. Sorry, my computer's bouncing around a little bit here. From the heart to the brain, which means the heart's doing a lot more communicating to the brain's doing to the heart. So if we actually reference our heart in our meditation, it will entrain our brain. And I believe it's designed to be that way naturally. We're in a culture where we've learned to operate from our minds. And even our spiritual practices have come from a place of operating from our minds because our minds are so chaotic. Even the Buddha said, all suffering is based in the mind and thought. You don't have to train the monkey mind to be quiet before you can enjoy the rose garden of the heart and the bliss and the loving kindness. It's a natural, it's not something we have to think about when we're in our heart. It's a natural affect. It's a natural tendency we have when we're in our heart. And so beginning to reference our heart makes it so much easier than trying to train our brain, which can take lifetimes, can take decades to master even just maintaining a state of empty mind for short periods of time. The heart's very simple, very easy. So anyway, that was a long explanation, but it's very relevant to what I'm wanting to share with the world, and even with beginning meditators, because coming to what you're saying, the best meditation, Brad, I think everyone should experiment and find what's best for them. Everyone, based on where they're at, is going to have different experiences. They're not going to be able to sit still, and be quiet and count their breaths. Maybe a walking or dancing meditation that they do to begin with. But what I have found through my experience is that this open heart, there's something to it. It's so easy, it's so simple, it feels so good that it actually helps with the reinforcement of something that's positive. And yeah, hi Brian, so I see that. What would you recommend as far as a starting practice daily, morning versus evening, sitting on a cushion versus sitting in a chair? What amount of time? Those are all excellent, very poignant and to-the-point questions for a beginning practice. So just like I shared with you that very starting heart strengthening, and we'll do that again for the heart, it's called heart strengthening or open heart meditation. I recommend starting with it. Definitely daily, a consistent practice just like with anything else, whether you're practicing a musical instrument, whether you're going to the gym sorry, my screen got off there for a second, whether you're going to the gym or any other practice, regular daily practice, even if you start in very short increments, and this is what I recommend, start with 5 minutes and build your way up as it becomes more comfortable to you. And so daily, open heart prayer and meditation, which I will share again with you here in a moment. As far as morning versus evening, what I have learned is if we're starting a new habit especially, we have a limited amount of willpower. It's easy to get caught up in every other routine and distraction there is in the world, and by the end of the day, we're so tired all we want to do is unplug. So it's not typically the best time to start a new habit. Morning and even first thing is the best time to start a new habit in general. And so if meditation is something new to you, then starting your daily meditation practice in the morning, get it done. It sets the pattern for the whole day. And maybe even doing a little bit in the evening. So if you're starting out, do 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. And then feel for you what works best. You know, I actually try to intersperse several short 5-10 minute meditations throughout my day to carry that frequency and energy and to reset and reboot through the day. But that's something that comes with practice and time and importance. Now, as far as sitting, you know, there is something to posture in either practice, because our spine, just like we have a brain and a heart, it's an antenna. And when it's straight, and you don't have to force it straight, but when it's in its natural, actually sort of S-curve position, in an organic straight, it's an antenna, and it does attune to higher frequencies of consciousness, and it also helps us ground to the earth. So sitting up is a good thing in a relaxed upward position, not forcing yourself to be straighter than you are. Cushion can help because it forces you to use your own core muscles to keep your body relaxed, or straight, I should say, in comparison to if you sit against an object or a wall. We tend to relax our lower body, and our posture is actually usually not as good. My teacher now actually recommends like a pretty solid wooden bench chair. It has a wooden platform like a chair would, a wooden chair, and then it has a very, very straight, very thin sort of extended back with a small headrest on it. And that's what he recommends. So it does support your neck a little bit, so you can actually still be in a relaxed position, because being relaxed is more important than trying to force yourself straight. But start with what you can. You know, sitting in a chair, if you don't have a cushion, but sitting on the edge of the chair, so you're actually still supporting your own spine as opposed to leaning back, is a good way. I'm still a little bit lazy, to be honest with you. I quite often have a really comfortable futon, and that is usually the place I sit, and it's not perfectly straight. It actually has a little bit of bend. But if you practice, you'll feel the difference. Like if we sit straight and you're in meditation, and then you even move just the littlest bit, you'll feel the flow of energy change. And so you can tune into that yourself the more sensitive you get. Guided versus freestyle. Yeah, absolutely. Guided is a form of meditation. Freestyle could be considered a form of meditation. You know, meditation is a very general term in the sense of whatever we're focusing our consciousness on. So there is a lot of different forms of meditating. Walking can be a form of meditation. Dancing, I mean, your favorite activity, painting can be a powerful form of meditation. Knitting can be a powerful form of meditation. Anything that's focusing. But focusing on the heart is very blissful, and it's very healing. So, you know, I'll share that with you here in a moment. And I do like guided to some extent. A lot of times with freestyle, if I'm just sitting, there's a real tendency to float, even in advanced levels, to basically just kind of space out and not really gain any benefit, kind of go unconscious instead of actually more conscious, or allowing for more, you know, bliss and happiness. We just kind of zone out and check out. So I do recommend using something as a focal point, whether it's the heart, whether it's music to help. Music helps either way. It's a wonderful way to enhance your environment. So anyway, if you have a particular scent or incense that smells really sweet and good, and this is part of purifying the air, but it's also part of creating a sacred space. So if you like sandalwood or frankincense or flowers, for example, roses or gardenias or a flower, by all means, bring in as many pleasant parts into your environment that help sustain, you know, and enjoy the experience. I think those are all very helpful. Bridget, what form of music? There's different ones that I listen to at different times, and some I don't listen to at all. I do like more instrumental music that is gentler. You know, I like string instruments a lot. I like nature sounds a lot. There's one that's a rain background that's really beautiful that I love, and it's basically got like wind chimes in the back, so it almost sounds like you're sitting on a porch with rain and chimes going is really beautiful, and I enjoy that a lot. And so really finding music that supports you in relaxing and enjoying the experience, as opposed to what might be obvious is like, metal death rock, it's not probably going to be very conducive to you enjoying your meditation unless, that's really what you're into.
Damon, you might want to comment a little bit on that the Paul Sheely stuff with the paraliminals that has a little bit of music, but the left and right ear kind of thing. I think that'd be an interesting thing to comment on.
Yeah, so, and it is a little bit different. So Brad and I are both fans of this teacher and producer of different products named Paul Sheely, and he is a master hypnosis and teacher, and he does this form of hypnosis that is called Ericksonian. Erickson, I believe, was the last name of the sort of founder of this form of hypnosis that is more of a storytelling. Like he would tell a story to an audience and put them all into hypnosis. And he was a master of it, and Paul is a master of that. So it's sort of like a guided meditation, but it's in a form of hypnosis. And Bridget, I think you're asking, or Brian, you're asking about binaural sounds and having one in each ear. It's similar but different. So the binaural beats is actually using an electrical, very specific frequency, one in each ear, to physically or analog, physically entrain the brain to a specific brainwave state. And those can be very powerful. I actually used a form of binaural beat technology for several years, and it was very helpful in going to deeper states of meditation. But with Paul Sheely and his hypnosis, it's literally his voice reading two different scripts, hypnosis scripts, meditation, or guided scripts, one in each ear. And it has a similar effect. It has a very hypnotic effect, because I'm not very easily hypnotized, especially with my extended years of mindful practice. I have a very ability to focus my mind. I'm actually still trying to undo some of that. But his form of hypnosis is super powerful and can be really helpful for reprogramming different beliefs and things that we have in our mind. I wouldn't consider it the same as meditation, but a lot of people enjoy it, and I still listen to them too as a different form of, well, you could consider it meditation, but it's really hypnosis. So I think that covers the questions that have rolled through so far. I'd be happy to share with you guys a little bit more on the open heart meditation if you guys would like to go through that. And I can also recommend you can look up open heart prayer and open heart meditation on iTunes. I think for $2 you can get a guided meditation prayer track for it that my teacher did many years ago. I haven't done my own yet. I may at some point. You can find different, I think there's some different YouTube videos and stuff on open heart prayer meditation, but you can download those. There's the Heart-Based Institute. They're changing the name from Heart Sanctuary to Heart-Based Institute, where there's more resources for like a guided form of that particular form of prayer meditation. Who has another question, or would you guys like to do some more of the heart strengthening? So I'm happy to do either one.
Not seeing anything here. Anybody got any questions?
How about you, Bradley? What have you got?
I can pull a question off our little list, absolutely.
Or do you have your own?
Not on the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have about 15 minutes more, and I mean, if you genuinely have a question, Brad, I'll answer it. Otherwise, I would just offer up a little bit more of the open heart real quick for people.
Well, let's do that.
Okay.
Let's sign off with that, and you finish that, and then we'll be done.
That sounds great. Anybody else want to throw in a yes, that sounds good to them? Heart strengthening, cool. Jeremy, heart strengthening question mark, good. So we can we can answer that by sharing it with you. And you're good with that, Brad? Brad, can you hear me?
I was muted.
Awesome, good. So I see everyone here.
Yep, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, everyone. Wonderful. So I invite you just to close your eyes. Go ahead and sit comfortably in whatever you're sitting on, couch, chair, wherever you're sitting. Allow your spine to be relaxed but straight. I'm actually kind of reclined, so I'm going to sit up here a little bit. Taking a deep breath, and as you exhale, just relax and smile sweetly and freely. Allowing yourself just to be fully present in this moment. Taking in another deep breath, and as you relax, feel your body all the way down to the soles of your feet, the tips of your fingers, top of your head. Just surrendering to this moment. And now, as you continue to relax more and more with each exhale, take a couple of fingers and touch your heart again, right in the center of your chest, right at about armpit level. Just lightly touching our hearts. Good. And now, without thinking how or where, just begin to smile to your heart. Wonderful. And from what I'm sensing, everyone's feeling a really sweet, gentle feeling because it's really strong right now. So just allow that sweet, light, gentle feeling right where you're touching your heart, where you're smiling to your heart, to just continue to grow. You don't have to do anything. Allow your heart to do it now. Although you can push on the gas pedal with your smile. So just to demonstrate, stop smiling for a moment. And now smile 10%. Smile 30%. Smile 60%. Smile 80% to your heart. And now stop smiling. And now smile as big as you can to your heart. Like stretch your corners of your mouth all the way to your ears. Biggest smile you can come up with. Notice the difference. And then just allow yourself to comfortably smile to your heart sweetly and naturally and freely. And as that light, gentle feeling continues to expand out in front of you, let your heart realize this light, gentle feeling is the blessing of True Source. True Source just being a non-denominational term representing the source of all love, all life, all creation. Wonderful. Feel how your heart responds to realizing this. Wonderful. Good. Now continuing to relax and just enjoying the light, gentle feeling expanding. Feel it expand all the way out in front of you, all the way above you, all the way to the left, all the way to your right, all the way behind you, all the way below you, until you're completely within True Source blessing around your heart. And as we're within this sweet blessing, this is practicing the heart strengthening. This is the very basics of what we call heart meditation or open heart meditation. And while we're in this beautiful space together, I'd just like to offer the very beginning of, very simple version of the open heart prayer. So, thank you, True Source. Thank you for this opportunity to share this sweet and very special gift, this key to our heart and to our direct connection to you and to our spirit, our true self. Thank you for all the beautiful blessings that you are showering down upon us every moment. True Source, please bless our hearts so that all pridefulness and arrogance and all related negative energies be cleansed and replaced with your love and light. True Source, please bless our hearts so that all anger and resentment and all related negative energies be cleansed and replaced with your love and light. True Source, please bless our hearts so that all selfishness and self-centeredness and all related
Damon, you still there? You back, Damon? You dropped off and you came back? Can you hear me?
Yeah, Brad, can you hear me?
Okay, he's back. Did you drop off and come back?
So sorry.
Technology.
For a second. Plugging in, but can you hear my voice?
I can hear your voice. Yes, I can.
Okay. Good. I just want to say thank you, True Source. Thank you for this opportunity to share your blessings and just the littlest bit of our keys to our heart and how it can serve every being, every heart throughout all existence for the benefit of all beings. Thank you, True Source. Amen. So, Brad, right now I can't see our chat window or anything. I can just see a full screen of you.
Yes, you'll have to reopen up the webinars on air chat.
Yeah, I clicked on all that, but I'm not.
Okay. Well, they are still here.
Okay.
And if they can still hear me, if you want to make a comment in the chat that you are still here, that we had something happen or something shut down.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sometimes this webinar on air, that Google Hangouts can cause disruption, and I need to learn. I may have had too many windows open because I actually had a reminder that came up, and I don't know if it kicked me off because of that or what.
That's very possible. I like to close all the windows except for the ones I actually need. So
yeah, that was
let's
my
sign
bad.
this off because it's almost 4 o'clock. So let's sign this off. And Damon,
wonderful.
You take it.
Well, and just a note, if you'd like to learn more or get in touch with me, you can go to heartmeditationforbeginners.com. My phone number and email contacts on there if you have more questions or would like to know more or sign up for my email list. There's a little sign up. You can get more 5 steps and more information on heart strengthening and some of the things that we do. And we'll keep you posted through Google Plus and some of the other things we're doing too that way. So did everyone enjoy that?
I'm posting your link in the chat
Yeah,
so
I see
that you
that.
can find it through there. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
It's not hyperlinked though.
Well, I think most people can get that. That's hopefully an easy one to remember. heartmeditationforbeginners.com.
Always something.
So Bridget, Jeremy, Brian, thanks so much for joining us on this first inaugural Meditation for Beginners question and answers. And thanks for having the patience and the
Looks like Damon froze up again. And Brian, thank you. And it's almost 4 4 o'clock, and we don't want to go over an hour because it'll cut us off for sure. That might be the problem with time frame issues. So, Damon, again, thank you very much, and thank you all for tuning in. This is Magic Brad, Synergy Cafe, and the Synergy Collaborative. So, peace, love, and happiness. Enjoy.